What if I told you that the most transformative part of the Morrigan's power isn't about battlefields, bloodshed or chaos, but about the land beneath your feet and the way you belong to it and relate to it? It's time to shatter the old just a war goddess stereotype and invite you into the deeper wisdom found in Ireland's sovereignty tradition. So, hello Macarja, and a sincere welcome back. I'm Lora O'Brien, your guide at the Morrigan Academy and author of The Morrigan, Ireland's Goddess. And you're listening to the next episode of our journey together here at the Morrigan Academy podcast. Here at the Academy, we don't do wishful thinking, TikTok sound bites, or watered down Celtic fluff. So this episode is for those who want source-based clarity, practical connection, and yes, some hard truths with your inspiration. Because when I tell you the sovereignty chapters in my new book changed my whole understanding of the Morrigan, I mean it. And I'm hoping that they'll change yours too. So the real Morrigan is much more than war. Let's break down that pattern, because everyone wants to call the Morrigan a war goddess and make her story about death and destruction and all that spooky, scary stuff, right? But if you actually go and read the manuscripts, if you go through the deep work I've structured for you, and honestly, you don't have to go and read the manuscripts if you don't want to, because that's not for everybody, but in my new book, I have broken them down into very detailed and accessible information. Right? So, if you do all this, you can quickly discover that she is equally, if not more, a goddess of sovereignty, of land, of right relationship. Take, for example, the second battle of Moitura, Cathmachira, where the Morrigan meets the Dagda at the river Unius or Unshin. This is in County Sligo here in Ireland, and people love to focus on the mighty sex scene and really kind of miss that what you're actually reading isn't a salacious story. It's Ireland's ancient sovereignty myth made manifest. So the Morrigan, the land in human form, gives her blessing to the Dagda, the new king, and with that partnership, the people thrive. The entire fate of the Tuatha Dé Danann hinges not on the swords or the spells, but on whether the Morrigan, as the land herself, chooses to support the king. Now, at the time of this story, just for complete clarity, the Dagda is not king of the Tuatha Dé Danann, but he is still the chief, he is still the war leader, and his role as the chief of the gods is what's working out here. So go back and read that story in the sovereignty chapters of my book, in Morgan Daimler's translation of the Cathmachira, which I highly recommend, and you're going to see it for yourself. She's not merely cheerleading for war, right? She's the literal ground of belonging between the land and the river, and the one who anoints the rulers and provides information, strategic prophecy, which turn the tide of war. And she is the one who anoints these rulers, these chiefs, these kings, through union. That is the role and function of a sovereignty goddess. And as her husband, when the Dagda wins her favour by aligning himself with the land, and also her representation, her spiritual representation of the tribe, of the people, his people succeed. So this wasn't just a one-off. We look at roots in medieval Ireland, so the real sovereignty tradition, right? Ireland's kingship traditions, as detailed in our medieval manuscripts, were full of stories about powerful women who held the land's blessing in their hand, right? The sovereignty goddesses who would challenge, test, or reward would-be rulers. And I think the Morrigan and the Dagda are like an older version of these medieval tales. Not quite complete in the same details, but like a proto version of it. In the medieval stories, these women sometimes appear as beautiful, sometimes as monstrous, but they forced kings or would-be kings to see past ego and prove themselves worthy. And if a king failed, if he broke faith with the land, the people, or with the truth itself, his reign would wither and disaster would follow. So in the book, I discuss the old concepts of fearflaha and gauflaha. And what these translate as is the sovereign's truth, fearflaha, and the sovereign's lie, gauflaha. And if the king or the leader is in right relationship with the land, with the people, with the truth, with the other world, then prosperity follows. If not, if he's telling lies rather than truth, if he's living a lie, if he's not in right relationship with the land, with the people, and of course with the supernatural elements of the other world, which were and are very, very close by, then again, disaster would follow and everything goes to shit, basically. Sovereignty is never just about like one king, one battle, one person. It's about the interwoven relationship between the ruler, the people, and the land itself. And this is held in balance by sovereignty goddesses who can grant or withdraw their blessings. So sovereignty is for everyone, from a field in Ireland to a balcony of someone who is Irish diaspora. And this is usually where like my international listeners say, but Lora, does any of this matter for those of us far from Ireland? Can I connect to sovereignty, to Irish sovereignty, if I'm in Boston or Berlin, I meant to say? If I'm in Boston or Berlin, like miles from the River Unshan, for example, right? And the answer is unequivocally yes. If you're willing to meet the Morrigan in your own place, in right relationship, because sovereignty is not just a title, it's a practice. And it starts by honouring the land that you're standing on right now. The stories, the cycles, the needs, the spirituality. I can't even speak this morning. Spirituality. So wherever you are in the world, learn your local place names. Listen to the river near you. What is the nearest river to you or stream? Participate in healing or restoration, in courting that right relationship with the land, with the sovereignty, with the community, which is the modern version of our tribes. So the Morrigan wasn't just about physical features of the land. It was the sovereignty of the tribe or the people. And this is why I believe that she's very interested in modern activism, social justice, all of these things. Because, again, fear flaha, the sovereign's truth. Our leadership currently is out of balance, is out of right relationship. So you can, wherever you are in the world, participate in healing or restoration, even in tiny ways, in community building, in community functionality, even in small, practical, everyday ways, right? And this is your sovereignty. The Morrigan is the force that calls you to integrity, to action, and to the courage to make your relationship with land, with community, and with your own self right. And sometimes, look, that is more challenging than any feckin' battle cry, right? In my book, I give rituals and daily practices you can use wherever you are, from city parks to distant diaspora gardens to sacred sites here in Ireland. And this allows you to move closer to that authentic land-rooted sovereignty. And I'm not giving you easy answers. That's not what we're here for. But I am giving you the practices that I know work. They've worked for me. They've worked for thousands of students that I've been teaching for the last 20 years. And like, honestly, you've probably heard me say it before, but it's worth repeating. when I worked on site at Rathcroghan in the cave of Uav Nagach, the cave of the cats, the Morrigan's fit abode, I learned most of this not by reading alone. Like, it's really important that we learn and we read and we understand the mythology and the stories and the cultural context. Of course it is, right? But that's not what makes our spiritual practice on its own, because we also have to listen and experience the land. So sometimes when I was there, I would just walk the fields alone at dawn or at dusk and ask myself, is the Morrigan here just for warriors? And particularly 20 years ago, that was a big question with regard to the Morrigan. I think I've done a lot of work since then, and I know that a lot of people understand that she's not just a war goddess now. But at the time, we had people offering bullets to the Morrigan and associating her specifically with American military practices. And look, for people's personal situations, grand. But again, the context of it, the context of her stories, her mythology, her true nature, as we have in our source material, is quite a different story, right? So, is the Morrigan here just for warriors? Do I have to be physically able? Do I have to be out on the front lines leading the charge? And the answer that always came to me through the wind, through the stones, through the sudden flight of crows, through the Morrigan's voice herself in time, was everything you do in relationship to the land and the people is what matters. And again, it kept coming back to sovereignty, to those transformations that happen when we put ourselves or begin to put ourselves in right relationship with the land, the people, and the other world. So if you let the land teach you, she will. If you show up in right relationship, your path is going to unfold and deepen wherever you are. And this isn't sentimental crap, right? This is practical spirituality. This is what we live every day. So if any of this has hit home, and you need to see how sovereignty is front and centre in the manuscript tradition, not as a side note, but at the very, very core of the Morrigan's power, I've mapped it out in my new book. And the sovereignty chapters really changed how I understood her role, as in the research and the experience that led me to write the sovereignty chapters is a better way of saying that. And they can really change your practice and your spiritual understanding and your experiences as well. So this isn't just another book drop, right? Personal plea. We need 10,000 sales on this book to make this an actual bestseller with Llewellyn. And every single purchase helps authentic Irish voices and authentic Irish culture, history, heritage, context reach more seekers. So if you value source-based Irish knowledge, please help me to clear some of the noise and the crap and the misinformation. You can go to morrigan.academy/book and put your support behind the voices who have lived this tradition, my voice that's bringing you this cultural context, the Morrigan from an Irish perspective. And you can buy this book at any good bookshop. It's published by Llewellyn 2025, and it's already getting really, really good reviews. So if you do have it, please leave a review as well, because reviews really, really help to show other people the value that can be gotten from this book, right? So we're going to give you a practical takeaway now that I've done my personal plea. Please buy my book. Please review my book. Please give my book as a gift, right? But what about your own sovereignty practice? So I do like to give very practical advice and things that you can do yourself to experience this within this podcast, right? And within all my work, actually. But here's what you can do today, like wherever you are in the world. Go outside anywhere. stand or sit and listen to your own environment. Listen to the land, listen to the trees, listen to the birds, listen to the wind, right? And ask, what does right relationship look like here and now? What can you be doing to give as much as you expect to take or get? Because that's the heart of right relationship. How do you contribute? How do you give back? Because that's where it needs to start, to be honest, before you start getting any benefits from it, right? And listen for an answer, even in small shifts or feeling or thought, shifts in the wind, just give yourself some grace to actually take the time, take the quiet, and just see what comes back to you. And if you don't trust it right now, because that's a thing that people say to me all the time, like, how do I know if it's real? How do I know if it's only me? Practice is how you know. Practice, practice, practice. So make a tiny offering, water a thirsty plant, clear up some rubbish, honour an old tree, whatever that looks like for you. But let it be a lived gift to the land, not just a token. You don't want to be leaving things on the land that are going to just become clutter, right? So with this right relationship with the land, do something of practical benefit to the land around you right now. And speak the Morrigan's name with gratitude, acknowledging her as the witness and even the motivation for your intention to develop a right relationship, your own fair flaha, your own sovereign's truth. And then don't forget to journal what you experienced, even if it's just a word or two, to ground the practice, to integrate it, to keep a record of it so that you can track your own progress. And remember through all of this, like, sovereignty isn't just an abstract ancient story. It's important to understand the historical context of it, for sure. But for your spirituality, your sovereignty is something that you embody every single day. So, Gura Mágat, thank you. Every listener who listens and shares and reviews and invests in this work is part of something bigger. It's growing, and it is a restoration of right relationship. It's rooted in Irish wisdom, but growing new branches all over the world. And I really appreciate that. Your practice, your purchase of the book, your lived sovereignty, your sharing this podcast, your leaving a review, all of that really does move this work forward, and I appreciate it. So if you haven't already, go and order your copy of the book, The Morrigan, Ireland's Goddess, and help us to reach those 10,000 sales. It seems like a lot. It really does. But, it's not a lot really in the grand scheme of things. So don't just listen to this. Take ownership. Share your questions, your story, your review. This is how we create not just fans, but a real community. If you're listening to this on YouTube, make sure and leave a comment down below. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel, all of that. Or wherever you're listening to the podcast, leave a review there too, please. Because I don't want fans. I want a community. I don't want people singing my praises. I want people doing the work. And that's the important thing. I want people sharing with each other. I want people who are taking care of each other, who are restoring the balance to the land, to the people, to the leadership, right? So, slán go fóill, stand in your sovereignty wherever you walk. Until next time, I will see you then.